Hello and welcome Travelog listeners. I hope you're all feeling well this morning after having such a sunny bank holiday weekend. On today's podcast we will be talking about the Lecrín Valley in southern Spain. I was lucky enough to visit Spain last week with Victoria, who's joining me here today in the studio to talk about a few of the places we visited and what makes this part of Spain one of the best holiday destinations in Europe. Let's get this show on the road by welcoming Victoria. How are you this morning?
Hi Meg, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me in this morning to talk about Spain.
Thank you for taking the time to be here this morning on such short notice. For the people listening or have just tuned in, could you explain a little bit about your history visiting the Lecrín Valley and what attracted you to this part of Spain?
Sure. About 3 years ago, my partner and myself decided that we wanted to buy a holiday home. So we looked at Europe and we both visited Spain, and we decided that we wanted to find somewhere in sunny Spain, near the coast and also near the mountains. So for the last 3 years we've been driving around, flying over in and out of Malaga airport and looking at several properties from Granada, Seville, Ronda, Malaga, and we stumbled across the Lecrín Valley, which is between Granada and the coast.
That does sound very nice actually. A place of particular interest for me when we visited Granada last week in the city was the Science Park. Here in the UK we have similar places such as the Eden Project, but this really stood out to me because it was the park that catered for a variety of interests, not just environmental conservationists like the Eden Project back at home. What shone out for you about this place?
The biodome was absolutely amazing. When we viewed it online, I must admit it didn't look as good as what it was when we actually visited the biodomes. What really stood out for me was the sense of energy and youth. So they're kind of trying to educate the younger audience of Spain and visitors to that part of Granada, but they're trying to make it fun and interactive, and there was a whole variety of things to do. So if you weren't a budding scientist and you adored animals, then they had a bird show, and likewise if you were heavily interested in animals and you weren't into science, and there was plenty of other things to look out for you. So I thought it was amazing, and I wish that the UK would take that stance really and copy some of the ideas and educational programmes that they were demonstrating.
I completely agree with you there. The only problem with the bird show for me was that I didn't understand a word of what the guy was saying because it was in a different language, but if you sharpened up on your Spanish a little bit, maybe it would be a lot more understanding rather than just him bringing out birds.
Yeah, I think so, but I also think the biodome is in a part of Spain that's not too touristy, and I think that's what made it more authentic, was because they were trying to be Spanish in their own world, but they also offered this to visitors like ourselves that actually took the opportunity to go and find it. It's not heavily advertised, and it may be something that if you feel strongly about, Meg, then maybe you could leave a recommendation on their Facebook page or something like that. But for me, I just thought it just made it more authentic, and it felt like I was in Spain, and it made me listen more and want to understand some of the words that they were saying, so I could brush up on my Spanish, which is awful.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the butterfly house that they had there. That was quite a nice kind of bit that they'd added on, which they didn't really have to, but if it was raining or something then you could have definitely enjoyed the day just as much.
Sure, I agree.
Okay. So compared to other parts of Spain, how does the Lecrín Valley stand out in your eyes?
Okay, well, Lecrín Valley is AKA, it's also known as the Valley of Happiness, and the Lecrín Valley, as mentioned earlier, it's twixt between Granada city and the coast. So it's the valley, you've got a range of mountains that go up one side and a range that go up the other side, and in the middle you've got the valley. So it offers a much more temperate climate, which means that the temperatures in the heat of the summer, instead of soaring up to 40 degrees as they would in Granada city, which is only 15 more minutes up the road, a journey in the car, you've got temperatures that are slightly under 30. So it's far more easier to actually live in the Lecrín Valley. You have water, you have a reservoir there. Parts of Spain, they do suffer with droughts, but Lecrín Valley you don't, so you always have water. which means you can grow crops, and every inch in Spain is very precious for either drought or for growing crops. And Lecrín Valley is also the Valley of Oranges. That's what they profit from. So they have lots of working allotments, old-fashioned, as we probably would have seen back in the 1940s, 1950s back in the UK. But actually the Lecrín Valley is just an amazing place. It's like paradise in the middle of nowhere, really. So that's why we chose the Lecrín Valley in the end to buy a home.
And is that what attracted you the most then, would you say, probably the cultural difference?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the cultural difference there for us is that the people are very down to earth. They don't have that much money. They very much welcome expats into their community. They live off the land. Food is very precious to them, and also they appreciate what they grow as well. So it's just amazing to go and see it. They're very humble people, but they appreciate the beauty of the Lecrín Valley. It's just super.
Yeah, it is really lovely. It's definitely something you should check out if you're over there. Just go and spend some time in some of the smaller villages rather than the cities and the big tourist attractions.
I agree, and I think some of the places to visit there, if you are in the Lecrín Valleys, is go and have a look at the white villages, such as Restable. There's a nice monument you can climb up the side of the mountain there. It's a bit of a steep climb, but if you do it in the shade of the trees, it's such an amazing view. You can actually look out to Malaga, you can look out to the sea, and if you look back the other way, you can see, I'm told, haven't done it yet, but I think you can see the tip of the Alhambra Palace in Granada City. So something that I would recommend doing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we should do on our next trip.
Sure.
Is there anything else that kind of attracts you back to or that you would recommend to anybody listening?
Yeah, you're right on the edge of the Algeciras, or Algeciras as they pronounce in Spain, and again that is the start of the white villages, and the Algeciras sit under the Sierra Nevada, which is the highest mountain range in the Granada province. Sierra Nevada is very well known and famous for skiing, so it becomes a ski resort in the winter months, and just below there's the Algeciras, and you've got some of the most beautiful white villages where they do traditional rug making. You've got the Honey Museum at Langeron, which is about 25 minutes away from the Lecrín Valley. You've also got a natural spa there where lots of Spanish, and even further afield you've got more Europeans that come into that part of the world for healing processes, because that's what they believe in. And the other big one that you've got is the Alhambra Palace in Granada City, which is 15 minutes up the road, and they have 8,500 visitors a day, or about 2 million a year. So that's a real great thing to go and see if you are in the area. So there's plenty to do, plenty to see. The list is just endless, really. And if you want to go 25 minutes back down, you're on the coast, and you can do diving sports, you can do lots of things. You can go down to one of the marinas, you can watch the locals fish for sardines and mackerel. Yeah, it's just a truly beautiful part of the world. Not probably is what people would think Spain as Kiss Me Quick, Hen and Stag Nights. That's further along the coast in Benidorm and Malaga itself. So
Okay, well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this morning on this topic, but we'll be back again next month after our second trip back to the Lecrín Valley to visit some of the places that we haven't had the chance to visit. So we'll definitely be checking out that. Where was it you said about walking up the...
In Restable, there's a
we
white
should definitely
village.
check that out.
White village, just opposite the Lecrín Valley. So in the Lecrín Valley, there's lots of little villages. The house that we did buy in the end is in Melillas, which is twinned with Restable. So yeah, well worth the trip to go out. Obviously we can climb up that monument next time.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening, and thank you Victoria for sparing your time to join us in this podcast. If any of you tuned in late to the show, you will be able to find us on SoundCloud at travellog.podcast later on today. Happy travelling, and we'll be back again next month. Adios amigos.